Imagine this. A thug with a snarling Rottweiler terrorizes a crowd outside Buckingham Palace. Women, children, and the elderly scatter in fear as he laughs. But when he sets his sights on a lone royal guard, everything changes. What happens next will leave you speechless. This is the story of arrogance, discipline, and the shocking truth behind the Queen's Guard. Before we dive into this incredible story, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button because tomorrow, at this exact time, we've got another incredible story of courage and discipline from the Royal Guards that you won't want to miss. The afternoon sun beat down on the cobblestones outside Buckingham Palace. Tourists snapped photos, their excitement filling the air. But among the crowd was Darren Mitchell, a thug with a snarling Rottweiler named Ripper at his side. Darren's combat boots scraped against the historic stones as he pushed through the crowd, his movements deliberately aggressive. Darren wasn't here to admire the palace. He was here to intimidate. "Move," he growled at a group of schoolchildren, yanking Ripper's leash sharply. The children scattered like startled birds, their teacher pulling them back protectively. Darren smirked, enjoying the fear he inspired. At 28, Darren wore his intimidation like a second skin. His shaved head, faded tattoos, and perpetual scowl had served him well in the rougher parts of East London. But today he wasn't in his usual territory. He was hunting for entertainment in the heart of British tradition. "Bloody tourists," he muttered, deliberately bumping into an elderly man who was too slow to step aside. "Coming to see the toy soldiers like there's something special." His gaze drifted across the palace grounds until it locked onto one such toy soldier, a royal guard standing at his post with perfect stillness. The guard's scarlet tunic and bearskin cap stood in stark contrast to Darren's stained t-shirt and tattered jeans. The difference between order and chaos was made visible. Ripper growled low in his throat, sensing his master's shifting attention. The crowd around them continued to part, creating an invisible bubble of space that followed Darren like a storm cloud. He changed course, heading toward the lone guard with purposeful strides. "Look at this one, Ripper," Darren announced loudly, tugging the leash to bring the dog's attention to the guard. "Thinks he's special in his fancy dress costume." The Rottweiler's claws clicked against the stones as they closed the distance, its muscular body tense with anticipation. The guard remained perfectly still, eyes fixed forward, bearing the dignity of centuries of tradition in his posture. His rifle rested against his shoulder, white-gloved hands perfectly positioned. Not a single movement betrayed any awareness of Darren's approach. "Hello, anyone home?" Darren waved his hand in front of the guard's face, close enough that the guard could surely feel the air moving, but not close enough to justify breaking protocol. "Earth 2, soldier boy. Your taxpayers are trying to talk to you." A few tourists had stopped to watch, their expressions a mixture of concern and embarrassment. Most kept their distance, sensing the dangerous energy emanating from the man and his dog. "You know what I think," Darren continued, circling the guard like a shark. "I think they put you here because you're not good enough for real military work. Bet you couldn't handle a real fight if your life depended on it," Ripper growled, feeding off his master's aggressive energy. His powerful jaws opened to display rows of threatening teeth. The guard's eyes remained fixed forward, but something in his bearing a subtle tension spoke of years of real combat experience, of discipline forged in far more challenging circumstances than this courtyard confrontation. "What's wrong, soldier boy? Dog got your tongue." Darren laughed at his own joke, tugging Ripper's leash to bring the dog closer to the guard's perfectly polished boots. "Or maybe you're just scared. Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Hiding behind that fancy uniform because you're too scared to do anything else." The casual tourists had stopped taking photos. Parents had gathered their children closer. And even those who had been annoyed by Darren's earlier behavior now watched with growing alarm. This wasn't just obnoxious behavior anymore. There was menace in the air, a deliberate targeting that felt increasingly dangerous. "I bet Ripper here could have you running for the hills in seconds," Darren continued, his voice rising to ensure the growing audience could hear. "Not so tough without your little guard friends, are you?" With a sharp tug, Darren pulled Ripper back, only to let him lunge forward again, stopping just short of contact. It was a calculated game of intimidation. The crowd had grown quieter, many putting away their phones rather than recording what was increasingly feeling like a prelude to violence. "Ripper here was trained by the meanest dogfighter in East London," Darren announced, pride mixing with cruelty in his voice. "3 kills in the pit before I bought him. Knows exactly where to go for the throat." He made a quick gesture with his free hand, and the Rottweiler immediately adopted an attack stance, its muscular body coiled like a spring. "I wonder if the Queen would give you a medal if you got your throat ripped out while on duty," Darren mused, his tone conversational despite the violence of his words. "Probably just replace you with another statue by tomorrow. No one would even notice the difference." The retired military officer had taken another step forward, his face set in grim lines. "That's enough, son," he called out, his voice carrying the unmistakable authority of command. "You've had your fun. Time to move along." Darren didn't even turn to acknowledge him. "Mind your own business, old man, unless you want to be Ripper's desert." His focus remained fixed on the guard, whose continued discipline seemed to be fueling his determination to provoke a reaction. "You know what?" Darren announced, his patience finally exhausted. "I'm tired of talking to a statue. Let's see how well you stand at attention with 60 kilos of fighting dog coming at you." A collective intake of breath from the onlookers created a sudden vacuum of sound. The security guard by the gate was now moving forward with purpose, but he was too far away to intervene in time. "Ripper doesn't like being ignored any more than I do," Darren continued, his fingers working at the dog's collar with deliberate slowness, drawing out the moment for maximum effect. "Maybe he can get you to show some emotion." With a final twist, Darren released the clasp on Ripper's collar. The heavy chain leash fell to the cobblestones with an ominous clatter. For a heartbeat, the Rottweiler remained in place, powerful muscles bunched beneath its dark coat, yellow eyes fixed on the motionless guard. Then Darren's command shattered the fragile moment of suspension. "Attack!" The word cracked like a whip across the courtyard. "Take him down, Ripper." The dog lunged forward with explosive power, its massive body becoming a blur of muscle and focused aggression. Women screamed, men shouted warnings, and parents pulled their children behind them. The security guard broke into a run, knowing he would be too late. The Royal Guard hadn't moved an inch. His eyes were still fixed forward in perfect discipline, despite the 60 kilograms of trained fighting dog hurtling toward him. In that moment, tourists fumbled for phones to record what many feared would be a bloody attack, while others turned away, unwilling to witness the imminent violence. 3 feet from impact, something extraordinary happened. Ripper's headlong charge faltered. His powerful stride broke rhythm, paws scrabbling against the cobblestones as he suddenly decelerated. 2 feet from the guard, the Rottweiler's aggressive posture transformed. His ears, previously flattened against his skull in attack position, twitched forward. His snarling muzzle closed, the yellowed teeth disappearing behind black lips. 1 foot from the guard, Ripper stopped completely. The silence that followed was absolute, broken only by the distant calls of birds and the confused murmurs of tourists trying to understand what they were witnessing. Darren's face contorted with rage and disbelief. "What the hell, Ripper? Attack!" He slapped his thigh hard, the sharp sound echoing across the courtyard. "I said attack, you stupid mutt." But the Rottweiler wasn't listening anymore. Instead, The powerful dog sank to its haunches before the guard, its aggressive stance melting away like ice in sunlight. Then, in a display that drew gasps from the watching crowd, Ripper lowered his head and belly to the ground in complete submission. A whine escaped his throat. "No way," someone in the crowd whispered. "Did you see that?" Darren's face flushed deep red. Humiliation and fury battling for dominance as his supposedly ferocious attack dog, transformed into something resembling an obedient puppy before his target. "Get up, you useless piece of..." Darren started toward his dog. Fists clenched, but froze when the Rottweiler did something even more surprising. The dog crawled forward on its belly, approaching the guard's polished boots with the submissive body language of a canine acknowledging an alpha. The guard remained perfectly still, his discipline unbroken despite the extraordinary scene unfolding at his feet. But something had changed in the air around him, subtle shift in energy that even tourists with no military knowledge could sense. This wasn't just ceremonial presence anymore. This was natural authority, so powerful it could override years of brutal training in a fighting dog. For the first time since taking his post hours earlier, the Royal Guard moved. The motion was so precise, so controlled, that it seemed more like a continuation of his discipline than a break from it. His white-gloved hand descended in a smooth arc, fingers extending toward the submissive Rottweiler in a gesture that combined command with permission. "Stand," he said, his voice quiet but resonating with unmistakable authority. Ripper immediately rose to his feet, head held high, ears alert. Every muscle responded to the guard's command with an obedience Darren had never achieved through fear or pain. The transformation was complete from attack dog to disciplined canine, awaiting the next command from his new alpha, Dup. What we witnessed today was more than just an encounter between a royal guard and a would-be troublemaker. It was a powerful demonstration of the difference between true authority and empty intimidation. True respect can't be forced through fear or threats, must be earned through consistency, discipline, and genuine leadership. If you found this story meaningful, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more powerful insights into the Royal Guards and the values they represent. Hit that bell icon to be notified when we upload new content, and feel free to check out our other videos appearing on your screen right now. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever witnessed someone's intimidation tactics backfire? Do you believe that true authority must be earned rather than forced? Share your experiences and join the conversation. Until next time, remember that true strength isn't about dominating others, it's about mastering yourself.